The Amazing Spider-Man came out in 2012, was directed by Mark Webb, and stars Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, and I'm very excited to give you guys my review for this movie. Be sure to check out my playlist of my previous Spider-Man movie reviews. As well, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get into this review. In this movie, Peter Parker is bitten by a genetically altered spider and gains newfound abilities, giving him spider-like powers, and ventures out to save the city from a mysterious reptilian foe. So I've come to appreciate the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies more over the years. I had enjoyed his first one when I first saw it way back, like 2012 when I first saw it. But I appreciate both his movies more now after seeing some of the MCU Spider-Man movies, because while I still prefer the Tobey Maguire ones because those are the ones I grew up with, these movies still feel like Spider-Man to me, whereas some of the MCU Spider-Man movies don't totally feel like Spider-Man. The Amazing Spider-Man movies still feel like they have the heart of the Spider-Man movies, if that makes sense. This one, maybe not quite as much as some of the other ones like Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire, still has that feeling of Spider-Man that I have been sort of missing in some of the recent Spider-Man movies. And I think this is a good Spider-Man movie. I think Andrew Garfield is really good as Spider-Man. He's different than Tobey Maguire, which is great. I liked him as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Thought he was great. Really enjoyed watching him be Spider-Man. I really liked Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy, and I really enjoyed their chemistry together. It worked very well. So I liked that dynamic. One of the better sort of comic book movie relationships, romantic relationships in my opinion. Worked very well. And this is the retelling of Spider-Man's origin, and I thought for the most part it did a good job. There are parts that I think they didn't do quite as well as the first original Spider-Man movie. I'm kind of biased because I have a lot of nostalgia for those movies. There are parts that they did good, just not as well, and there are some other small details in this movie that I appreciated that I don't think any other movie of the Spider-Man movies has actually done, and stuff like that. It's small, but I appreciate it. It's like in the movie, not in the final act, but there's a confrontation between Spider-Man and the Lizard, and Spider-Man gets his suit torn, and they keep it like that for the rest of the movie. It's not fixed. I sort of like that idea that Peter Parker's not able to fix his suit, and even when he's like coming home at night after being Spider-Man, is covered in bruises and cuts on his face. I like that. You didn't get that in, again, any other Spider-Man movie, so I appreciated that, and I like the sort of dynamic that I created with him and Aunt May. I really liked that. That was cool. And this movie's also got Uncle Ben in it again, and you get the same sort of story with that, where, you know, you don't get the "with great power comes great responsibility" line, but you get a very similar scene, and you get Uncle Ben's death again. I thought the death scene itself was handled very well. I don't think the responsibility idea was handled quite as well as it was in the original film. It's there, but I was rewatching, I'm like, I feel like Peter's sense of responsibility came from a different scene with Gwen's father, who's the captain of the police. When he's talking about, oh, Spider-Man's not saving people, he just seems to have a vendetta with these people. Sort of where it clicked for him to have the responsibility to protect people seemed to come from that more than Uncle Ben. So that was like, okay, they did something different, but I kind of just prefer it coming from Uncle Ben. It's just more impactful with his death, for me anyway. And this movie's got the Lizard as the villain. I enjoy the Lizard. Not the most memorable villain for me. They do give Dr. Connors a legit motivation for doing what he's doing for himself. Afterwards, when he's trying to turn the whole city into lizards, it was sort of like, okay, I guess I can see why he's going there, but it was sort of like, okay, it's alright. So I enjoyed the Lizard. There's some really fun action scenes with him and Spider-Man. I really enjoyed the fight scene at the school and the final confrontation. Enjoyed both of those, but not a particularly strong villain. A fine villain. I enjoyed it for the most part for this movie. They do some good stuff with Dr. Connors before he's the villain, and Peter, where they sort of set up a bit of a relationship between the two. I thought that was pretty cool. Kind of reminded me a bit of Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock and Spider-Man. I thought that was pretty decent. So that I thought was good. An extra layer to that dynamic. The actual Spider-Man suit in this movie I think is fine. It doesn't bother me like it does some people. I definitely prefer the Spider-Man suit in the second Amazing Spider-Man movie, but it's fine in this. I think it's okay. But I did enjoy Andrew Garfield's take as Spider-Man and as Peter Parker. Sometimes him with Peter Parker, sometimes the awkwardness was maybe a bit too awkward, where it's like, this is just kind of awkward to watch. But for the most part, it was fine. I think that's more due to the direction or the writing. But I enjoyed him as Spider-Man for sure. And as for some more bigger issues I had with this movie, I found the pacing at times made this movie feel a bit too long, even though I think the runtime of this is pretty similar to the runtime of the previous 3 Spider-Man movies. It did feel a bit longer. I did notice things that happened in both this movie and the original movie. They happened later on in this movie, so it made it feel a bit more dragged out, which at times was good. It had more time to explore things and build characters, but other times it's like, okay, it's just sort of dragging on. And the other thing that I kind of mixed on in this movie is the relationship between Peter and Gwen. I already said I liked their dynamic, I liked their chemistry, but the aspect of it that I wasn't a fan of was how Peter just pretty easily revealed to her that he was Spider-Man, like didn't really try to hide it. And that was a part for me where it's like, this movie doesn't have quite the same feel of being a Spider-Man movie. Like, it's still there with a lot of things, like, you know, Uncle Ben's death, Peter going into a bit of a darker place because of that, and sort of the struggles of being a high school student and being Spider-Man. There's a bit of that there too. But with that, it was like, okay, again, like their dynamic, it worked well, but that him keeping his identity and not being with the person he loves from in the original movie, that really elevated sort of that feeling of being Spider-Man to me, of a Spider-Man movie. So they sort of took that away. So that was like, okay, it definitely feels more like a Spider-Man movie than some of the other, like Tom Holland Spider-Mans, but not as much as some of the previous because of that aspect, where he just very easily just announced that he was Spider-Man to her. And even at the end, they sort of had the opportunity to sort of bring that back, where he's like, I can't be with you because you'll get hurt. Yeah, they sort of undo that. They do some more stuff with that in the second movie that sort of goes more along the line of the Spider-Man feels for me, and I think they could have gone further after the end of the second movie if they had done a third one, but I'll get into that more in the next review. So yeah, just that, some of the pacing, the villain I thought was good but not great, but overall I thought this was a fun retelling of the origin story. I think it does a pretty good job of standing on its own. I think it's a fun comic book movie. I enjoy this take of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I think this movie does do a good job of doing some things differently from the first one. There's some aspects I think it does better, some things it doesn't do quite as well for me. But overall, I enjoy it. It's got some fun scenes. I like the swinging scenes in this. There's a really cool one with some cranes where people are trying to help Spider-Man. I really like that scene, and the music playing in that scene. I really enjoy that. So for me, I enjoy The Amazing Spider-Man. I would give it a 75%. So guys, those are my thoughts on The Amazing Spider-Man. If you guys have seen it, be sure to let me know what you thought about it. As well, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and be sure to stay tuned for some more reviews coming soon. And until my next video, take care everybody.